Mucklick here, and I make concise, spoiler-free game reviews that help you decide if you want to buy something without spoiling the game for you. This is Lies of P, a steampunk Souls-like video game that is also a dark retelling of the Pinocchio story. It is available on PC, Mac, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and XS, and is rated M for mature. In full disclosure, I received this game for free as part of my work, but the goal of this review is to determine whether or not this game is worth its $60 price tag for you. The game's setting, with no spoilers beyond the tutorial. You play the role of Geppetto's puppet. They never actually call you Pinocchio, but it's clear that that is who you play. In this world, puppets are used widespread to do day-to-day activities and serve mankind, but one day they all simultaneously revolted and began attacking people, throwing the city into chaos. You are somehow special, exactly how is revealed later, and have not lost your mind, and also can lie, which is something other puppets simply cannot do. You will work with the survivors to find and put down the rogue puppets in the city, one brutal boss fight at a time, and try to figure out what caused all this. The general gameplay. Lies of P is faithful to the Souls-like formula, with difficult enemies, dodging, parrying, bonfires called stargazers, and souls called ergo that you use to increase your strength. On top of that, you can greatly customize your weapons, such as combining the handle of one weapon with the head of another to change its reach and attack speed, or using a crank on one to change which stats it scales with. You also get many options for your left arm, which are useful in various situations. After getting satisfied with your character, you will go out into the world and begin the mission of finding out what has happened. The story is more linear, think like Dark Souls, not open world Elden Ring, but does allow you to backtrack and explore as much as you wish by teleporting between stargazers. Lies of P took me about 44 hours of gameplay for my first playthrough. In true Souls fashion, many hours of this were dying to the same bosses repeatedly until I was able to get past them. Depending on your skill level and patience, your first playthrough may be hours shorter or longer than mine. After completing the game, you can stay in the world, teleport to previous stargazers, and do side quests that you didn't finish, and at any time you can move on to New Game Plus mode, where everything is much more challenging. You keep your existing equipment when going into this new difficulty. Comparisons to other games. Lies of P is a true Souls-like experience. Comparing it to other Souls-like games that I've played, Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, Steel Rising, Jedi Fallen Order, and Survivor, this felt among the more difficult of those. Some of the bosses took me multiple hours of attempts to get a kill due to its challenge. The details. Graphics. The graphics of Lies of P were incredibly detailed with a steampunk vibe. They are detailed enough that the cutscenes use the actual in-game footage in most cases. Sound and music. The sound design in the game was on point, with climactic moments sounding like you had an entire orchestra at your back, making them much more cinematic and memorable. Controls. Lies of P can be played with a controller or with keyboard and mouse. I played the game with mouse and keyboard and have two complaints in this department. Dash and dodge were the same button. You can rebind keys you don't like, but you could not separate this to two separate keys. Tapping the key was dodge, holding it was dash, or sprinting. So if you were trying to go from a sprint to a dodge, or a dodge into a sprint, it was very fickle. I would like to see this changed. The second complaint in the controls department was how the game handled items. On keyboard, you could use T repeatedly or G repeatedly to cycle through items that you had added to your hotkeys. Then pressing R uses the most recently selected item. You cannot set keybinds for individual items. They all use the same button to activate, which can lead to cycling through a wheel of items in combat to get to the right one, or accidentally using the wrong one when you need to heal in a pinch. I know most Souls games have this item wheel system, but they don't have to. I have so many other keys on my keyboard, let me use them to bind some of these items. Saving system. The game saves your progress constantly. However, if you die, you will reappear at the last stargazer, just like a Souls bonfire system. From there, you will need to click on the spot you died to recover any unspent ergo, which are souls, else continued deaths will cause them to vanish. If you spend your ergo on equipment upgrades or level up, it is locked in and not at risk of being lost. Content creator concerns. None. I streamed my entire playthrough on Twitch and uploaded the entire thing to our Mucklick Plays YouTube channel and did not experience any muted VODs or have any issues with copyright claims. Do I have anything negative to say? A few items. One was the dash dodge sharing a key, another was the earlier mentioned item wheel. You also cannot respecialize your build until 70% of the way through the game about. So if in Act 1 you pump a whole bunch of points into motivity, it's like strength, and then you get a really good advanced weapon and you want to respec to try it, you can't. not until a few dozen hours later. I really itched to try various builds out midway through the game, but I felt trapped in the build I was in up until that point for another 10 or so hours. After you get respecking unlocked, it does stay open to you, however, even at the beginning of New Game Plus mode. Last item in this category is related to consumables. When trying out a boss, if you use consumables, then wipe on the boss, even when you respawn to before the boss fight, those consumables are gone. In some cases, this means going to farm more. In other cases, you just have to cut your losses and continue without them. Final thoughts. Lies of P was an excellent addition to the Souls-like genre. It takes the formula that many have grown to enjoy the challenge of, builds upon it, and adds an amazing, engaging story on top of that. The steampunk atmosphere, the sound design, the gameplay all felt great, minus those few items I listed. If you already enjoy challenging Souls-like games, I definitely feel that this game was worth its price. However, if you are considering picking this up as your first Souls game ever, I want to stress again, this game was tough, and I'm saying that as someone who has cleared other Souls-like games before. If you perhaps are thinking of approaching Souls-like games for the very first time, my recommendation would be Steel Rising, another Souls-like that happens to also be steampunk and involve puppets, but is a much less brutal entry into the genre as far as difficulty goes. This video was not sponsored, so if you enjoyed it, please consider hitting that like button to help us out with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for more content. If you'd like to see my own playthrough of Lies of P, I'll include a link to that playlist from our other channel down below. Subscribe there too. As always, a massive thank you to our dear patrons who make content like this possible. If you'd like to become a supporter and earn early access, there's a link to that in the description. Remember, lie or die.